Hi, welcome to Verses and Voices, a talk show where poetry becomes a living conversation. I'm Luis Monge, your host, and thank you so much for joining us. Today's program will be very interesting and special. We're going to analyze the poem Elm by Sylvia Plath. For this, we have a set of special guests, but before introducing them, I would like to give a little context on this poem. Elm was first published in 1965. The tone of the poem is melancholic and obscure. The speaker reflects sorrow and grief. Its style is allegorical and metaphorical, using the ambiguous presence of an elm tree to convey this. Therefore, this poem has had many different interpretations since it was published. Experts have analyzed this poem very thoroughly, and while some of them have reached a consensus, some others have not. So the opinions are divided. One of the most common approaches that experts have used to analyze this poem is the Jungian myth approach. That's why today we have invited four experts in Jungian myth criticism. I would like to introduce the first group, José Gutiérrez and Geovanna Cascante, and the second group, Jacqueline Álvarez and Brandon Lopez. Each group will share and compare their perspective on this poem. So to get started, Jose and Giovanna, would you like to start?
Well, yes. Hello, everyone. We are beyond excited to be here and to talk with you today. Let's start the analysis of this great literary work. Plath opens the poem with the elm tree as a feminine entity with a voice of dark wisdom. The first stanza reads, "I know the bottom," she says. "I know it with my great taproot. It is what you fear. I do not fear it. I have been there." Here, we can see that the elm tree uses multiple voices or three different pronouns, I, you, and she. And taking into account the archetypes of the Jungian myth, the anima understands the psyche. So now let's go back to the poem. And here, she knows what the person is feeling. She has been there. Therefore, the elm tree offers support and companionship to the persona, meaning that the elm tree is the anima, and the persona is the entity the tree is talking to. Furthermore, she comes to the rescue exactly when the persona is being tortured by the shadow. But you may say, what is the shadow? Well, in the stanza 3, the elm tree says that love is a shadow. So if we take this literally, we can assume that love, or most specifically, the loss of love, is the shadow. But in a deeper analysis, in stanza 12, the persona tells, clouds pass and disperse. Are those the faces of love, those pale irretrievable? Is this for such I agitate my heart? This tells that love has become ghost-like, unreachable. And this is what the persona fears the most. He fears not being able to find a new love. Going back to the previous stanza, the poem says, I'm terrified by this dark thing that sleeps in me. All day I feel its soft, feathery turnings, its malignity. Here the persona wouldn't accept the shadow, and that's why the anima stays there with persona. She keeps telling him the dark side of love, because the anima is not against the shadow. In fact, she keeps echoing and echoing until the persona accepts the truth and starts looking for individuation.
That's totally right. But let's explain it with an example so the audience can understand it better. So, love is part of life itself. That's something that everyone may experience. However, if there is love, a heartbreak may still occur, and you will have to deal with it. Probably, you will have people around who can help you get over a heartbreak. As they may have dealt with it before, they will not only give you comfort, but also offer the best advice they can, so you can move on or even feel better. Just like an anima or animus, the friend is the same. In this poem, that is what happens. The persona is suffering from heartbreak, and the elm tree is the friend in this case, offering the persona some advice since she has experience. The elm tree tries her best so the persona can understand that the loss of love is part of life, and in that way achieve individuation. However, in the last four stanzas, we understand that individuation was not achieved since the persona gives a negative image to it, as you can see here in the examples. And the line, I am incapable of more knowledge, reinforces the fact that the persona does not want to understand the nature of his experience. And again, that also happens in real life. Even if your friends tries to give you the best advice and comfort, you may still feel bad and still, as the poem says here, be terrified by this dark thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys, for this interesting analysis. Now, Jacqueline and Brandon, let's hear your opinion. Do you have a different perspective or do you agree with them?
Thank you, Luis. We actually have a very different perspective, and I want to begin by saying that for us, the persona is not a male but a female. And for us, the elm is the shadow, not the anima. And here's why. First, the poem begins saying that it is what you fear. Here, the persona fears the shadow and doesn't want to face it. But the shadow knows her. It has always been a part of her.
You can see that the shadow embodies everything that the persona is repressed by, afraid of, and ashamed of in this poem. The elm represents her own inner struggles as she is tortured by this voice inside of her. In this sense, the shadow touches on very personal topics such as suicide, death, grief, loneliness, depression, anxiety, and mental health struggles, even thoughts that our persona wants to hide from the rest of the world at all costs. However, she is constantly reminded and tormented by her own shadow. Okay, we can see that in stanza number 5. It says, or shall I bring you the sound of poisons? This is rain now, this big hush, and this is the fruit of it, tin white, like arsenic. Also, in stanza number 4, this idea is reinstated with, till your head is a stone, your pillow a little turf.
And this does not sound like the animus. The elm is not coming to save her, but instead pushing her deeper into pain. The elm even says, how your bad dream possess and endow me. The shadow is feeding itself with her suffering. And she admits this directly when she says, I am terrified by this dark thing that sleeps in me. All day I feel its soft, feathery turnings, its malignity. She knows the shadow is there, growing stronger every day, and it terrifies her. Now, in our analysis, the animus is represented by a loved one, most likely a romantic partner. And the cause of her pain is the love of this loved one, in other words, her animus.
In this case, the animus is represented as structured voice of consciousness in the life of the persona. However, that voice has now shut down. Instead of achieving his goal of protecting and comforting the persona, he has failed her, leaving her unprotected. And this protection not only is from this cruel world, but from the struggles of her own psyche. We can also see that the persona is going through a process of grief due to the loss of her animus. This pain has led our character down a spiral of depressive thoughts and mental instability. This idea is supported in the second stanza. It says, is it the sea you hear in me, its dissatisfactions, or the voice of nothing that was your madness?
Finally, we can see that the loss of the animus has led her to looking for love. And she even says, are those the faces of love, those pale irretrievables? It is for such I agitate my heart. This is why we believe that her loved one is dead. She only sees pale, unreachable faces when she looks for love, which confirms her grief and despair.
In this sense, we can see that our persona aims to be loved and understood, again after losing at the love game. However, she is deeply tortured by this failure and the departure of her person. So that will be a bit of our analysis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys, for your analysis. Very interesting and very professional, too. So, all of you guys are very clever and supported your statements with direct evidence from the poem. However, after hearing the two analyses, if I had to stay with one perspective, I believe that Jacqueline and Brandon's interpretation is more accurate according to Jungian myth approach. Their interpretation of the archetypes seems more proper to me, although I know that many other experts may agree with Geovanna and Jose's interpretation. And well, with this, we have reached the end of today's program. Thank you so much, guys, for accepting the invitation, and thank you to everyone who joined to watch the program. For those of you who are watching and listening this, please let us know in the comments which of the two perspectives you prefer. See you next time.